Okay, well, welcome back to the Grande Pacific Railroad. Uh, since we did the original video on installing switch machines and we did a segment on setting up and installing switch ITs, NCE's come out with a switch IT MK2. Uh, it has some neat features on it which make life a lot simpler as far as doing the installation. The one on the right here, is the old switch it. Uh, we had it on usual event called a lightning strike, and we've suffered some damage. Some of this equipment on this railroad, like this switch it, go back 20 years. They were on another layout, and then we brought them up here and put them on the new layout. Everything here is at least 10 years old. So it's not a case of any failed product. It's just, lightning does its thing. We got to move on. So we're going to leave the conversation about the lightning and why we're doing all this at that. What we're going to try to show you is how to set up one and install it, and what it can do, because it can tie into some other things. In this particular railroad, we have block detection, and we have a big panel, which I'll show you with a few more red lines on it than it should have. But we can give you an indication of all the things that you can do to control your switches through this. Now, this is basically two decoders. It will have two addresses, capable of controlling multiple machines on each address. My good friend Greg down in Australia got into a very good video on the Switch 8 MK2. Like you said, 2 is possible. I can show you a situation we did a little bit earlier on another video where we actually throw 3. It's in a ladder situation, so we won't get into how we do that until we get to the end here. We're going to focus, though, on setting it up, programming it, and installing it. Now, we're installing it back onto switches and everything and numbering that already exist. I'm going to talk here a little bit about numbering. You need to have a system in your railroad of how you're going to number things. Okay, this is a big railroad, okay? As model railroads go, we're got on the big side. So there's 3 levels here in most of the layout. So switches are numbered here 100, 200, 300, and then we get over to the HON3 narrow gauge. All that is in the 400s. So all switch numbering are 3 numbers. The number of switch addresses is endless. Oh, I can't remember the exact number in the book, but it's past 2,000. So you're not going to use them all. So on my layout, all switch addresses are 3 numbers. It stops any mistakes with other addresses. There's no 1 number, 2 number thing. Somebody can hit it wrong and do it. When you get out to punching 3 numbers in, you pretty much have to get it right. If you don't, and you punch in 3 numbers that are wrong, you're not really messing with anything else. Because everything's 1, 2, or 3 to start with, so and there's no really overlapping numbers in the thing. So you can't throw the wrong switch. Now, this can be controlled by a dispatcher's panel, which I will show you. It can be controlled by a your Pro Cab controller. It can be done with a Cab 06 controller. It can be done with a trigger switch. We're going to show you all those and the ins and outs of the trigger switch, because the trigger switch doesn't provide, as far as I know, even on this one, the information that you're going to need to feed back to the system. So let's start here, and we're going to move our little workbench over to the area where we're going to do this. Okay, so getting started. What do you need? You're going to need a way to power up the switch MK2, and that's what this jumper cable and these connectors are for here. We'll take the jumpers right off the track right there to get power to it. Now, if you read the instructions in the book, and I'm going to tell you right now, good instructions, take a minute, read them. Don't go by everything I tell you. Read the instructions and couple it with the what I'm doing here. You're going to need a controller hooked into the system. I do not ever recommend programming anything on a radio cab. It just makes life work better. In this case, we have a couple of switch machines here all set up. These are tortoises, and it kind of just makes sure everything's working right. The one thing we can't tell which is going to be right is because we're hooking this up to machines that are installed and already pre-wired into the system. So we don't know if we're going to get the polarity right to whether it throws to the 1 or 2 position, and we won't know that until we have it all hooked up and running. Now, simple correction: when you get to the end and it's going the wrong way, it's open instead of closed, all you have to do is go right there where these switch machines connect and switch the polarity. Just don't screw it, turn the wires over. If you're running a JMRI panel, there's another quicker way to do it, but we're not going to get into that. Switching it in the electronics in the computer. But for the sake, if it's running the wrong way, all you have to do is turn those 2 wires over, and that corrects it. It'll run the other way. So this is the switch here. The tortoises and stuff are just as a means to go through here and have it all work. And you need a good screwdriver, flat tip screwdriver that works on the screws on the switch That's basically it for this thing. We're going to assume here that you have your switch machine installed and necessary leads and track things done. Now, what I do is I sit down and do it in advance. So here's my switch machines, and this is what's called the European terminal strip, and basically the first 2 right here are the power for the switch machine. The next 3 are one switch inside the machine, and the next 3 are the other switch. The blue and the yellow wire tell me which side, which switch I'm using inside the machine. These 2 switches can be used to power your frog if you so desire. I use all Atlas track and all Atlas switches on this railroad. There is only one powered frog on this whole railroad, and it's on a curved Shinohara switch. It's a little bit too long, and too many engines give too much trouble going over it, so we have used one of these to power it. So anyway, and this is your lead that goes right here, and you'll see me hook this up to the switch That's the power lead. So we'll get started here, hook this up, and then we'll come back and we'll start programming the switch machine. Now, the first ones we're going to do here on this railroad are already predetermined. It's 380, and down here 370. We know the numbers. So, and that is the machine, that is the switch it we're going to be replacing. But you can assume you just have, you've got your switch machines installed right here, and you got this piece of wire you've got to hook up. You should have established all your numbering and your numbering pattern for your switches before you get to this point. In this case, we're in a replacement, but it doesn't make any difference. You're going to start from scratch, so you're going to know numbers before you start. In this case, the 380 switch is going to be the A side, and the 370 switch is going to be the B side. For a little bit unusual reasons, the B side switch 370 is not on the main line, and it's in an area of the railroad which is considered dark territory. It's not covered on the panel in the dispatcher's office. It's on a branch line that the dispatcher doesn't fool with. So that one is thrown by a trigger because, again, it's up on the third level, and it's done because most people on this level can't see the points. The switch machine 370 is right there. And this is eye level for me right here. So I can't see the points. So this is the board that throws it, and these LEDs tell the operator where the points are. The LEDs are on a totally separate voltage system. There is a DC voltage line that runs around here, which is in the 3 to 4 volt level. We just put a resistor on it, and those are 2 millimeter, 2 volt LEDs. So we'll show you all that, but this is the trigger switch that goes to the other side on this switch, and we'll hook this up. This is a double pole, double pole, single throw, center off, momentary contact switch. So when I touch it, it returns to the off position. All I'm doing is telling the thing to throw from 1 to 2. And same thing applies up here, as funny as it may be. This is the other one we're fooling with 370. This double, I got to get this right, single pole double throw, momentary center off contact switch right here actually goes to a mini panel to trigger the switch because it's on the main line and the dispatcher needs to see it, what it's doing. And when you use a trigger switch, it doesn't see it. So if you're getting into panels, you need to understand how all this stuff reports, because you want the panel to see the switch when it gets thrown. Now, you can lock it to where only the panel can throw it, but that really doesn't work real well around here, so we don't have lock switches. All right, moving ahead here, and we'll get this thing started. Okay, so we have all the wires set up to run a test and to program the numbers. The power feeds go right into the terminals up here as per the instructions. And then the A switch, which is this one right here, and the B switch, which is the other one over here, or 1 and 2, as they're referred to in the diagrams. Now, this is your wiring diagram and how you go about it. And we're working down here, right here where we hooked up. This is the 2 side, the 1 side, the display panel. This is the select button that we're going to use right now. Then your machine A1 and A and B. The power lead is up here. So that's exactly what we have here. I think the key here is That's your programming button, and that's the select button, and this is your display. So, these are the parts that really make this nice. And we're going to get into this now and start with the program. The system's off, so we're going to go turn the system on. And when I come back, you're going to see some lights. Okay, well, I'm going to turn this on, and you'll see the thing go through its startup process, and then it'll get to the wig-wag. Okay, once you get to this point where you have the wig-wag, you're in business. It says everything's functioning. Now, the default on the system on this decoder is 1 and 2. So it's accessory 1 and accessory 2. So if I take the old NCE controller here, and I select accessory 1, and I hit enter, and I hit 2. Oh, look. That's decoder 1. You see where the little LED light's on? That's on the one side, and it's working. If I go select accessory 2, enter, and it says it's reversed, so we'll hit 1. That's the B side, or the number 2 side. That one will be 370. So we know that the board's working and our 2 switch machines are working. Never hurts to check switch machines, believe me. Check it all before you go stick it up there and find out it ain't working, believe me. You definitely want to spend time doing that. Now, the next step. This gets into the programming mode, and remember we said the one side is going to be 380 and the B side is going to be 370. So then, and when I push this button for program, well, first of all, we have to select which decoder we're going to do first. So I go here and I hit the select button, and it comes up 1. And it's actually saying decoder 1, and the number that decoder 1 is set to is 1. So if I go and hit it again, it comes up 2, and it's saying it's set to the number 2. So we're going to go back, and then we get the wig-wag. That's the 3rd time. Now we're going to push it again, and it's going to go to 1. And this we want to be 380. Now when I push the program button, you have exactly 1 minute to finish the next step, or it will revert back to its default. So we hit the program button, which is right up here, and you see it's flashing program. Then I go over here and I say select accessory 380, enter, and it says it's normal, so I'll hit 2. Okay, now we go back and look, and it says accessory 380, and the number 1 LED is lit. So we know that one's done. So now we're going to go back, and we're going to hit the button, and it goes to 2. Okay, we have this now on the number 2. You see the LED lit over here, and we're going to hit the program button. It's set to program. We're going to go select accessory 370, enter, and we're going to press 1, and this should do it. So it's saying now 370. Okay, so we go back here and we go to our wigwags, and we go to 1, and it says 380, and we go to 380. You hit 2, and it goes 370. Okay, so we'll get out of that, go to our wigwags, and then we go back here, and we hit select accessory 380, enter. Select accessory 380, enter, and we hit 1, and it ran. That's all we're looking for. We do not know if it's running the right way. We will find that out shortly. Then we hit select accessory 370, enter, and we hit 2. And it runs. So we've successfully programmed a Switch It MK2 decoder. And we can now install it into the system, and we'll see how that works. Now, what I'm going to do is go up there, and I'm going to remove the wires that are on that one and connect them to this one and do something I haven't done before because we have a trigger switch on this. All right. Thank you. We'll be back in a second. Okay, well, we've got it all successfully installed and working. You have the wires for both switch machines connected on this end, the 1 and 2 side. We have a trigger switch being used on the number 2 side, and this is the power feed from the track bus. You have to have the track bus for it to get the information, and as they say in instructions, the wigwag is wigging or wagging or something. So that tells you that it's getting the DCC signal. Now, throwing the machine. Okay, this is switch machine 380 on the Grande Pacific. If I go in here and I hit select accessory, that was the last one we entered, so it comes up. If I go, let's just assume it wasn't there and you entered 380 and you hit enter and it says now normal. Well, you can see the switch is closed, so that would be normal. That's also the main line on this railroad, so this is a detected and control switch by the control panel. So now we go over here and we hit 2, and sure enough, it opens up. Now, the trick on all this is you have to think your moves through when you're doing controlling switches on an NCE system using this device, using the decoder and all that. You have to think about before you go rushing off, you got to close that switch. So you hit enter, accessory right there. Select accessory. I hit it again, and hit enter, and 380 came up. Here's the biggest trick I can teach you about this whole system. If that was the last number called, if I press where my thumb is, select accessory again, without going to hitting enter or selecting 1 or 2, if I just press select accessory again, look at that, it goes back to 1. Save you a couple steps there when you operate a railroad like this for 4 or 5 hours and you throw switches in some of the areas. It can save you a lot of steps. Got to think about where's the last place your little train going to go, though, when you're kind of getting things going, because it kind of sets up the sequence of how you're going to throw the switches, so you can eliminate doing one. So anyway, so that was 380 thrown with a power cab. Now let's throw 380. Remember what I said? I'm standing on a stool, people. I've just grown 2 feet. Let's get back down here to ground level. Okay, this 5'10.5" person is now at, that is 60 inches off the floor. We got a couple of cars even sitting in the way. So I can't see the points. So we come over here to the panel. It's here for the operators. All right, and we hit this trigger switch. And we hit it down, and it triggered the switch to throw. This is not connected to the switch it. This trigger switch, which is a single pole, double throw, momentary contact, center off switch, is connected to a terminal on a mini panel. And it's got instructions on it. When you trigger it one way, it does one thing, and triggers it another way, it does another thing. The reason is, and the reason I can't use a trigger switch here is, it has to report through the command station so the panel sees what happened on the switch. Whereas we come down here to switch 370, which is right here, is not on the main. It is actually on a branch line, and it is not on the dispatcher's panel. This is a trigger switch up on the dispatch. This is a trigger switch, which I will show you where those three connections are. So I can trigger it. Now, the LED lights, like I said, they're operating off the tortoise switches, and that is a totally separate circuit. That's a DC, about a 3 or 4 volt circuit I have running around. It's the whole layout. When this was put up, there's a couple of things I would not do again, and that's one of them, but it's here, and we're not changing it. So there are other ways to get juice today. So anyway, we have the one here. So you see those three, the red, the green, and yellow wire plugged in over here. That is the switch right there for 370. So you say, but it doesn't report. I don't know how all these things communicate or who communicates with who. All I know is when you use the toggle switches off the back side here, it doesn't tell the panel, or it does, the command station doesn't get the message, so it doesn't see it. And if the command station doesn't see it, then the JMRI panel, or in this case I use layout editor panel, will not see the thing move. Let's go look at the panel. Before we go look at a panel, this is a mini panel. This is a device sold by NCE. All these wires go to terminals. Each terminal has 4 steps. You use your Power Pro hammerhead to program this chip right here. So I can go in and say terminal 1, throw switch 305. If I push the button, throw 305 to 1 and 306 to 2 and 307 to 1. When I push this button, it will do that. I'll push this button. Okay, so now this switch, it checked it. It was already thrown because that light was on. And it checked this switch, and it was thrown, so it was okay. But we're going to go down this track, so now it opened up this one. It's also said to come down here, but before we can get down here, it's going to divert off here. If I wanted to come all the way to the bottom, then I just push that switch. And it says it is a macro. Or if you don't understand computer words, it's an electronic diode matrix. Okay, so you can write it, you can link terminals together. Problem you get here, this particular device if I throw all three of these, okay, we got a couple light issues here, but all three are thrown. If I push this button, then all three straighten up. That's 3 switches thrown at one time. I said I'd show it to you. I'm not going to say it's going to work every time for every person. There is a limit to how much voltage you have to do this. So it's just a point that that one does work. It's a ladder we can set up. I'm sorry I have to fix some lights. I know where the problem is, and it's not just a burned out light bulb. It's probably a wiper in the tortoise machine that's not connected. It's broken off. So anyway, let's go look. Here's another panel. This all works off a mini panel. And if I touch this button, it's going to throw this switch and this switch. So both switches open up. That little piece of track makes the upper level on this railroad a continuous run. If I throw that switch, now what happened here is when I threw this one, it opened up all the way through going down into the helix. So if I want to stay on the main line, I have to go and push the other red button. Now, everybody tells me I can do this better, but nobody comes up with a suggestion. This one is just simply a back to them. This is on the main line, so it has to be done through the mini panel, but it's the same thing as the switch over there. It's a single pole, single pole, double throws, momentary contact center off switch. And it throws it back and forth. Okay, so we're going to go up here on my computer and we're going to click Panel Pro. And we have JMRI Panel Pro is opening up. In my case, we go under, this is hard to do, watching, and we go to Open Panels. And we got to go right here to Grande Pacific, and it's opening up, and there is the panel. Okay. I'm not going to get into the red and blue lines because they're not right. Okay. For example, all this over in here that's red, I just disconnected that AIOU01. It is not functioning. It was struck in lightning, so it's not done. But where we were up there fixing switches was right here. Right there. You see CP380, that's control point 380. That was the switch we were working on. So if I click on it here, it closes it. And that's the part right there that if you use the trigger switch, it won't move that open or closed. So, so that's the part that does not report from the trigger switch. That's why I use a mini panel to throw the switch with the buttons on the mini panel for that upper level, where it is involved with the main line, because there's a lot of track on this panel that is not on the railroad, that's not on this panel. It doesn't get into dispatching or what's controlled by the dispatcher when we have one. Okay, so this part covers it, and we'll go on to the rest of the installation of the Switch It's MK2 style on the Grande Pacific. I hope this helps on your options of what you can do to control your switch machines in an operation. This panel is missing signals. signals are in a box, a lot of them are, and I have what is called lighteds, which will give me an address for each bulb in the signal, which will come in to this panel. And if I went into options and go to edit, I can go click on each one of these little switches, and then I can fix it so it'll put the signal in, and then we'll use the logic from HMRI to talk back and forth to all those block detectors once we get them fixed, and it would run the signals just like CTC. So it can be a complete system, people. Gotta have a lot of patience, though. Believe me, you have to have a lot of patience to work this. So anyway, finishing up on the Switch It MK2. Thanks for watching again, and I hope some of this helps all of y'all. Bye.